What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Hollywood Happy Hour podcast. Coffee. As you might have guessed, my name is Stephen Anthony Bailey, the host of the Hollywood Happy Hour podcast, at least for the last 15 or so episodes until I fire myself. I do have that right and that power as the creator of this show. Hi, how's your day going? It is January 23, 2019, day 30-something of the government shutdown. But I won't talk about that because this is an uplifting podcast. A podcast full of laughs and joy and things of that nature. Today's a mini-sode, no guest, just me. Before you turn it off, because it's just me, I want to tell you what is going to be in the episode. I'm going to start with my most embarrassing stories that I have about running into celebrities. Everyone always asks me things like that, especially back home in Indiana. They're always asking me like, "Oh, have you, do you know any celebrities? Have you met any celebrities? Blah blah blah." I don't hang out with any, but I sure have met a bunch. They're out, they're about, they're here, they're real. So I'm going to talk about that, and then I'm going to talk about its awards season, and I want to talk about the SAG Awards, the Golden Globes, the Emmys, the this, the that. We're going to go over everything. So let's start with the fun stuff. Dessert first, right? Before we get into that, though, let's see what's really going on. What's going on? I've been very fired up since the top of the year, and I feel like my productivity's gone up by a lot, and I'm really happy about that. I mean, why wouldn't I be? But I'm glad that I'm keeping that. I don't know if there's any artists that listen or are listening who a lot of artists, we have depression issues. I do. So fighting that in order to stay productive or not get burned out, it's this difficult balance. And even having been someone who's done it this long, I'm still figuring it out. How do I sustain balance and productivity while also, staying as happy as possible. So that's very difficult. But here's my tips for that. You got to stay on your workout regimen. You have to. When I fall off of that, it's very easy for me to also have the creative productivity fall off as well. I don't know why that's how it is, but that's how it is. And then also, I preach about it all the time. I write out my goals, and I'm figuring out that if I'm not excited about the goals, then those shouldn't be my goals. Two simple little fixes that only took me 30-some years to figure it out. I'm doing a play right now. That also helps. I'm doing R-Town with the Kentwood Players. We're having fun. We finished our second weekend last weekend, and we're going into our third. I did the play when I was in high school. I played the part of the stage manager. I wasn't the stage manager of the show. There's a role, the lead role in the play is called stage manager. And basically what happens is he takes you, he's like this sort of ethereal, mystical being that's part of the play but outside of the play, but he's also a character in the play. It's very weird. But he takes the audience through the entire journey of the play. I did that when I was in high school, and you have to memorize 6 pages of monologue at a time. Very difficult, especially because it was only my 4th play. It was crazy. And I remember back then being in school, I would literally look at my teachers and be like, "Listen, I'll do this homework later, but I need to study for this play. I have to be up in front of the entire school for a month doing this play. Please let me just study my lines." And they let me. I think they saw that at that age I was fired up about acting, and that's what I wanted to do. So they let me. Especially this art teacher that I thought hated me was all about it. I was like, "Oh, this is great." So it was maybe that was one of those first positive affirmations from a teacher or an adult or someone like that was like, "Oh yeah, no, we'll let you break the rules if you want to be an actor." Wasn't a great lesson necessarily for an egotistical 17-year-old to get, but got me here. So, hi. And thank you, Mr. I don't remember his name. Starts with an R, I think. And I remember he kicked me out of class for talking too much. Well, now I have a podcast where I can talk as much as I want to. So suck it, Mr. R. So the play. So I'm doing Our Town, and now I'm playing George Gibbs, which is hilarious because when I did it in high school, I was playing the character that should probably be played by like a 50-some-year-old man. And instead of playing the boy who is 16 or 17, and now I'm my age now playing the 16 or 17, that it goes through, his age range goes from like 16 to 29, but it's still wild for me to go back and play someone that young. But also very cool that I can still sort of look that age, I guess. Good genes in the family. But we're having fun with it, and it's really cool to do a play a second time, because especially playing a different character, because you see the play in a completely different angle, and because the entire play isn't resting on my shoulders, I'm only the third lead. I'm still counting. What a jerk. I'm still like, I mean, I'm the third lead though. I'm important as shit, but I still got enough, ease on me to look around. Like, what? Shut up. But I am the third lead, and I kick ass at it. Oh, God, I'm going to delete this episode. It's the coffee. I can hear I'm talking quickly. Deep breath. Here we go. I'm going to keep talking quickly. Anyway, it is fun to look at the play from a different angle and see it all differently. And it's been very enjoyable. And because he's this kid is George, he's, looking back on myself, I was kind of having trouble playing the parts where I was supposed to be 16 because I am older than that, and it's been a while. So I went and I found these old microcassette audio tapes. I used to do audio journaling, I guess you'd say, and then I would do little cartoon voices and things of that nature. And then I also found these old camcorder tapes of mine from that when I was 16, 17. So looking into those and seeing, how much I've changed, as well as the 10-year social media challenge that went around. I've been doing a lot of looking back at that age, which I don't normally do. I think because it was such a tough time in my life, I didn't, I kind of never looked back at that particular age range, that high school age range. I didn't love high school. I didn't do amazing in high school. I didn't really start finding myself until right when I was graduating, because in my senior year, I had two big parts in the plays. I, of course, did Our Town, like I said, and then I did Oklahoma. And I remember I also was making videos for assignments, and they were showing them, not just in class, but they were showing them. We had a TV PA system, and they would show my videos to the entire school. So doing the plays and then doing a bit of stand-up and then getting these videos shown, I walked around the high school, and kids would recognize me, and, I started to feel oh, that's my place in the school. It only took me 4 years to get it. So it wasn't I didn't have a bad time. I wasn't bullied or anything like that. But at the same time, that feeling of I need to find my thing, what makes me fit in, was very important. So looking back on that, now I see, one, why I didn't look back, because it was kind of a tough time. And two, I just, I was such an awkward kid at that age, because I was really didn't stop growing until age 25. I think I had a final growth spurt that got me way up here to 5'7 3/4, people. Watch out. Oxygen gets tough at this height. And so anyway, it was fun doing that. It's fun doing this play, and it's fun looking back at that time. And I've even reached out to people on social media from those plays that I did, and we haven't chatted even just via email in years and years and years, so it was fun to reconnect. So I guess my point is, it's amazing what doing a play can do for you personally, because you have to go rooting around inside of your memories and inside of your heart and your emotions, and deal with the things that you've been scared to deal with, and reconnect with the things that you've let go of and lost. And when you do that so many years later, you don't look back on that time with and see the pain. You look back on that time and only see the good times. It's kind of an amazing trick to get over the pain in your life. Not that everybody has to go out and do plays. What I'm saying is it's okay to look back. Because, it's like that saying, tragedy plus time equals comedy. I can laugh about things now, or I can smile fondly on things now. The awkwardness of, like, I can look back, if it would have been like 7 years ago that I'm looking back on myself at that age and I'm still embarrassed that I had a crush on this girl who turned me down or whatever it is. But now I look back and smile like, oh, weren't those kids cute? It's not you anymore because so much time has passed. And that's kind of what the play Our Town's about. It's a play about time and life and the little moments and how time passes so quickly in life. And we don't stop. My favorite line is, we don't stop and look at each other. Emily says that. It's powerful stuff. So, that's what's going on with me. I'm doing the play, doing the podcast, working the day job, and just grinding as much as possible. And I saw Elton John last night at the Staples Center. He's 72 years old, and he tore that place apart. The place was entirely sold out, and I had nosebleeders, which was fine. I actually didn't mind it because I was literally in the last row, dead center of the stage, but the last row, so my back was against the wall, and it was fine. I could see him just fine. And, the sound in there was amazing. And he sounded amazing. For 72, his voice is better than most in their prime. And he played everything. He did a 3-hour show. I can't do a 3-hour show. I'd have to pee 3 times. Which makes, that's all I was sitting there wondering, is he did leave the stage for 4 minutes, but he did a costume change. So if he peed and did a costume change, I guarantee you he didn't wash his hands, and then he's out there playing that piano. So, don't touch Elton John's piano, because it's definitely got pea fingers on it. But he was amazing. He played everything. He didn't play Don't Go Breaking My Heart or Lion King or Aida or anything like that, which was fine. But he played songs that you didn't know, and you could tell that because this is his last tour, he's trying to, as all artists do, still show that side that the general public hasn't quite seen or embraced yet. Artists will always have some things that are popular, and then a lot of things that aren't popular that kind of got skimmed over, but that are very personal to the artists that made them, so they're still trying to get them seen all those years later, which is, we didn't ask for that, those songs, right? But I appreciate those songs because I don't necessarily know them, because I think he did 35 studio albums or something like that. An immense amount of music that I haven't heard, probably. Because he's got so many hits, that's enough to digest outside of the other, 200 songs. But it was an amazing concert. Like I said, 3 hours. Came out and did his encore with Your Song and Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, and walked off the stage. It was great. It was pretty great. Another legend off the list. I think the only ones that I haven't seen yet that I want to see are I haven't seen the Stones yet. Haven't seen Bruce Springsteen yet, which is bonkers because he's my favorite. And who else? Oh, Paul McCartney. Haven't seen Paul McCartney yet. That's kind of it. Oh, I missed out on Fleetwood Mac. That sucked. I should have gone and seen them, but tickets are so expensive, man. Even for the nosebleeders for Elton, I think I dropped $250 for those tickets. It was, and again, they were good seats, but $250 is a lot of bread, folks. So anyway, that's pretty much all I've been up to. And now let's move on to my favorite celebrity stories. So let's see. I would say let's start with Billy Crystal. That was a fun one. So I was at Jason Robert Brown. He's a composer. He does Broadway shows. He did Last 5 Years, Songs for New World, Bridges of Madison County, Parade. And he's got solo albums as well. He's kind of this jazz fusion sort of with pop. music, rock and roll. I mean, he's kind of got his own unique sound, and in the musical theater world, we know, like, if we go to audition and we hand the accompanist a piece from Jason Robert Brown, that they're probably going to butcher it unless they absolutely know it, because he does these crazy jazz chords throughout. And if you're asking somebody at an audition to play anything other than the basics, they're going to mess up your audition. And I've had that happen. I had to learn that lesson the hard way. But Jason Robert Brown's an amazing, amazing musician. And he does an amazing live show. So he was here in L.A., we go to see his show, and then we knew one of the people that worked at the venue, and so we were standing there talking to him, and he looks at me and he goes, "Did you see Billy Crystal in there?" And I go, "That's funny." And he goes, "No, for real, he's inside. He was watching the show." And so right as that's said, I turn around and there's Billy Crystal. Now, usually, I live in LA, and also, like, I don't want to embarrass myself or bother people. I never want to bother people. I never really ask for photos unless it's like at a book signing or something that I go to, then I'll do it because that's just part of it. But like if I see a celebrity out in public, I'm not going up to them and being like, "Let me get a photo," because I know I don't want to bother them. And then I also don't want to be remembered and like be on set like 3 years later and them look at me and be like, "You're that a-hole that bothered me when I was with my kids and asked for that photo." Anyway, so I'm at the Jason Robert Brown concert. I see Billy Crystal. Now, let's be real here. I had a few gulps of the loudmouth soup, okay? So I'm feeling a little toasty, feeling brave, feeling a little crazier than most nights. So I walk on over to Billy. Now, let me tell you about Billy Crystal for a second before I get into this. He was like one of my first actors that I was ever just like, "Oh man, I really like what he does." I remember seeing City Slickers as a kid, and obviously When Harry Met Sally and Forget Paris and Mr. Saturday Night we had. Like and then him hosting the Oscars, and of course his stand-up. Now, I love his stand-up so much. He's, as a aspiring stand-up comedian myself, I will definitely say that he's in my top 5 inspirations as a stand-up. I just love what he used to do on stage because it was very theatrical. He acted things out more than he gave like observations or stories. They were these great bits with all these characters and voices inside of them, and I was like, "Oh, that's what I want to do." I've always liked doing voices, and obviously I come from the theater, so he's like that perfect amalgamation of everything that I guess I felt I was naturally good at. So I love him. I've seen all of his stand-up work. I've seen all of his movies. Love his one-man show, 700 Sundays. I've read his memoir. Like, I'm obsessed with him. You get the point. So, okay. So, Jason Robert Brown concert, I walk up to him sort of, nervously and excitedly, and he's by himself. And I go, "Hi, Mr. Crystal. My name is Steven. I'm a big fan of yours. You're one of the people that made me want to do stand-up. And, it's an honor to meet you." And he's very kind, and he says, "Oh, yeah, my stand-up, wow." He says something like that. And I go, "Yeah, I love that bit that you have where you talk about coming back to New York City and how much you missed it. And then I love that. My favorite line is when you say, 'I miss the sound of the city,' like, 'Move that fucking truck.'" Now, if you don't know the bit, you don't know the bit. That's fine. But I saw that. Now, that bit is something that Billy Crystal did in, like, the 70s. And so he looked at me for a second like I had gotten it wrong. And like I had told him someone else's bit. And you see him, like, jogging his memory, and then it clicked for him. And he goes, "Oh, my God, I haven't heard that joke in years." Because, Billy Crystal doesn't really do stand-up anymore, and, that joke, again, is 40 years old. So he's looking at me like, 1, how do you know that joke? 2, I didn't remember that joke. And 3, I think there was a little respect there that I knew his catalog that well. So I say, "So you're a big Jason Robert Brown fan?" And he says, "Yes." And he said, "Yeah, we're thinking about doing a musical together." And I said, "No way, are you kidding?" And he goes, "Yeah, we're going to call it 'Move That Fucking Truck.'" And I didn't even laugh. I just smiled because I was like, that was so quick. Like, he just turned this around and gave a joke. And then as I'm talking to him, Jason Robert Brown comes up and puts his hand on Billy Crystal's shoulder, and they start talking. And now I'm just like, Mr. Brown, Mr. Robert Brown, good show. I really enjoyed the show. I'll let you two talk now. Bye-bye. And I turn around and, like, I bump into a table, and, like, you know, it wasn't the most embarrassing thing, but it was definitely two things. One, I was tipsy, so I had motor mouth more than I do on this podcast. And then, you know, seeing them together and just being slack-jawed and in awe of both of them because I love both of their work and know their catalog so well. And then 3, turning around and bumping into a table on my way back was embarrassing. But at the same time, I know that one, he's never going to remember that. And 2, it's like, it's this fun memory I have. And that's the fun of meeting celebrities. Meeting your heroes. And I always get nervous to meet my heroes because sometimes, you know, they're rude. And I'll think of the rude ones here in a second. But I also, you know, so then we're leaving the venue, and then I see Billy Crystal one more time. He recognizes me, he nods to me and waves, and that was the end of that one. So the other drunken idiot story, I'm at the Magic Castle, one of my favorite places on earth, and my friends say, "Is that John Mulaney?" And I'm a huge John Mulaney fan. And this is a few years ago. You guys are all just getting up to speed with who John Mulaney is. Welcome to the game. So I go up to him, and I'm like, hey. And on this one, I'm trashed. I'm not a little tipsy. I'm like Magic Castle tipsy, which means I didn't drive there. Hey, are you John Mulaney? And he goes, yes, as he does. And I say, oh, cool. Like, what are you, Chris Farley from 92? And I just say, big fan. All right, see you later. And then I just walked away, and I, like, looked. I'm walking away just terrified that, what the hell did you just say? Because, 1, I know John Mulaney doesn't drink. 2, I'm shit-faced and just embarrassed myself. And 3, he's so confused. I look over my shoulder, and he's just staring at me like, that was the interaction that you wanted to have? Just to tell me that I'm John Mulaney? So that was embarrassing. And let's see. I don't know. Who else have I met? I probably should have written out a list. I've met a few other ones, obviously. When I worked on Extant, I got to meet Halle Berry. And so I'm walking up to set. And I'm walking up to the makeup trailer, and she starts waving to me. You already know where this bit's going. And I'm like, is Halle Berry waving at me? How does she even know that I'm hired to be a co-star on the show? Like, how does she just know who's working on the show? So I wave back, and I'm like, hi. And then she's like, looks around me at the person she's really waving to. I turn around and see that. My head immediately goes down. I go into the trailer, and I'm embarrassed. And because she was talking to one of her co-stars. And I was just there to do my 3 lines or whatever it was and get out of there. And so so I go in the makeup trailer, and I'm like, well, at least I can hide in here. And then as I'm getting my makeup done and talking to the people, in walks Halle Berry again. And I know that she knows that I'm embarrassed, and she knows that I'm embarrassed. And she doesn't say anything. She just sits down in the chair and starts talking to her makeup person. And then our eyes meet as we're both, like, looking in the mirror, like, without turning our heads towards each other. But we do that thing where you lock eyes in the mirror. And we both, like, nod at each other, like, both just embarrassed for each other. Me mostly embarrassed for myself. And then I went on to, you know, do my little bit part. And I was out of there in, like, 4 hours tops. So there was that one. I'll think of some others. But yeah, I mean, you know, you meet celebrities, and, like, you know what I hate? I hate when people go, I don't get starstruck. Yes, you do. We all do. You just don't get starstruck by certain people. You know, for instance, like, one of my first, like, extra gigs when I first came out here, I was on Cougar Town, and I got to, like, be directed by Courtney Cox. I wasn't starstruck by her. And I was a big fan of Friends. I like her work. It's no disrespect to her. She's not one of those people that I was like, I want to do this because of Courtney Cox. She wasn't one of those people for me. Even though she was great in Ace Ventura: Pet Detective and great in the Dancing in the Dark music video. But like, for instance, I saw DiCaprio at a Q&A one time for Wolf of Wall Street, and I was, a few rows back from stage, and like just sitting there in the same room as him was very exciting for me and made me nervous. I was like, please don't look at me. That sort of nervous. So it doesn't happen with everyone. But when people say that they don't get starstruck, I'm like, shut up. No, yes you do. And if you say that you don't, you're pretending that you don't so that you don't embarrass yourself. So for me, what I'll say to you is if you do see a celebrity and you want to go say hi, just be respectful. Don't do the thing where you ask for a photo because that means you're making it about you and about your dumb Instagram instead of having a genuine moment to really compliment someone's work. Compliment their work, say hi, be respectful, don't stay more than 2 minutes and get the hell out of there. You are going to embarrass yourself no matter what. It's fine. They're not going to remember it, hopefully. And then you will have a story to tell for the rest of your days. So there's a few fun stories. And if I think of any with the rest of the podcast, I'll let you know. So let's talk about the awards season. You guys watching the awards movies? I got to do my SAG award votes tomorrow. I'm probably just going to do them today and just get ahead of the game so I don't have to do it tomorrow. But let's just go through the, I think the Oscar nominations came out yesterday. So we will go over those briefly. But let me see these SAG Award nominations and I'll just kind of tell you. I thought like the movies this year were okay, but there were no real standouts to me. I think the one that has stuck with me the most is Black Klansman. By Spike Lee, and it stars John David Washington, who is Denzel's son, and Adam Driver, who is from my hometown, and who I'm very proud that he's, taken over the game. And also I love Bohemian Rhapsody, I love Star is Born. I thought Vice was okay. Like, I love Adam McKay, and I love his directing. And this is so mean to say, but I kind of feel like Vice and what is it called? The big, oh no, I just feel stupid. The big, what is it called? The Big Short. I feel like The Big Short and Vice were both, like he saw Wolf of Wall Street and he was like, oh, that's how I'll make my movies, just like this from now on. And that sort of way that they edited it and the way that like the vibe it was and like the very tongue-in-cheek way of, we're telling you a story, but we're going to like mess with the way that we tell it. Like we're going to make fun of telling a story in this way or something, that sort of thing. And then just the way they, like I said, the way they cut it and how they mess with the format and do weird things. But I will compliment at about like the 20, 30, maybe even 40-minute mark, something happens in that movie that I've never seen done that they totally commit to that I thought was brilliant. I also thought Christian Bale was brilliant, and I thought that, and he played Dick Cheney so well, totally likable. I don't completely know how I feel about this whole thanking Satan thing in his thank you speech when he won the Golden Globe, but I also think he was implying that Dick Cheney was the Satan that he was thinking. Like, to have someone so devilishly evil to play, he was thinking them. I think it kind of got misconstrued. I don't, that goes into like, the Illuminati and all people in Hollywood are devil worshippers. Hi, I'm in Hollywood. I'm not a devil worshipper. And I'm not in the Illuminati. I don't think. Right? Jay-Z. But I thought Christian Bale was good, and I thought playing George W. By Sam Rockwell. Sam Rockwell did an amazing job playing George W. He gave, like, obviously it was a good impression as with, like the way he speaks and the way he moves and uses his eyes and things like that, and it was scripted for him to whatever. But what I think that he gave George W. that hasn't really been done before is he humanized him in a way that you felt like, oh, I'd grab a beer with that guy. It didn't feel like he was doing a caricature of like this idiot president or anything like that. He played him as just this guy who likes chicken wings and beer. You know what I mean? Like it's cool. Like, and because that is who, well, it's one side of who George W. is or was at the time, right? But I think, so if I was picking outstanding performance by a male actor in a leading role, this is for the SAG Awards, we've got Christian Bale playing Dick Cheney, Bradley Cooper as Jack, Rami Malek playing Freddie Mercury, who did an amazing job. I just thought the teeth were a little too cartoony. And before you respond back saying, yeah, but Freddie's teeth were cartoony. Yes, I know, but sometimes in art, when you play something realistic as it really was, it's distracting or too unbelievable. Like, you know, people do that all the time where they're like, we can't include that in the script because in the movie language, that's an unbelievable event to happen when we're saying based on a true story or something. Happens all the time. I thought they were just distracting, you know, and I thought he looked a little too cartoony, whereas while I feel that, yes, Freddie Mercury had those gigantic champas, that when I watch videos of his interviews, I don't feel like I'm necessarily distracted by them. Then you got Viggo Mortensen playing Tony Lip in Green Book. That's directed by Peter Farrelly, who directed... he's one of the people that directed Dumb and Dumber. I like him. I don't... And I'm glad he got nominated. I just don't think... He's not my pick. John David Washington playing Ron Stallworth in BlacKkKlansman. I thought he was great. I still think he's a little green. But I thought he was great in the part. The standout of that movie to me was Adam Driver. I know that's like a messed up thing to like yank the rug out from John David Washington, but it's true. But again, I'm glad he got nominated, and I think like he's got this amazing future ahead of him. And what I appreciate about John David Washington is he's not doing anything that Denzel does. Like, it's hard for me to believe sometimes that he's Denzel's son because I don't see any of the Denzel mannerisms that like Jay Farrow is pulling when he does an impression. You know what I mean? Like, I can't see John David Washington saying King Kong ain't got nothing on me. Like, I can't see it. So I think I really like Bradley Cooper's acting in A Star is Born. I'm probably going to pick Bradley Cooper. Yeah, I'm going to pick Bradley Cooper. Outstanding performance by a female actor in a leading role. Emily Blunt as Mary Poppins. I thought she was good, but I thought that the filmmaker, Rob Marshall, did a great job because we're all going to immediately compare her to Julie Andrews, obviously, who originated the role. We're going to look at her and be like, are you doing what Julie Andrews did or something different or what's different and whatever. So she did just enough to be like playing the character, didn't do an impression of Julie Andrews and did her own thing. I don't know that it's a standout role. And I love Emily Blunt, but I don't know that that's not going to stand out in the grand scheme of things as she continues her career. Glenn Close in The Wife, Olivia Colman in The Favorite, Lady Gaga in A Star is Born, Melissa McCarthy in Can You Ever Forgive Me? I think I'm going to go with Gaga. I thought she was brilliant, especially that last shot at the end of the movie where she's playing her song and, you know, looks into the camera and you're like, oh, no, a star really was born. Like, she's brilliant. She could quit music and just act if she wanted to. So probably going to go with Gaga there. Outstanding performance by male actor in a supporting role. You got Mahershala Ali in Green Book, Timothée Chalamet in Beautiful Boy, Adam Driver in BlacKkKlansman, Sam Elliott in A Star is Born, Richard E. Grant in Can You Ever Forgive Me? Sam Elliott, let me talk about him for a second. I am late to the game on Sam Elliott. For a while there, he was just, beef, it's what's for dinner. Like, that's all he was to me, really. And, like, I knew he did Westerns, and I grew up watching Westerns with my grandfather and stuff like that, but I've never been, like, a big fan of him. And I've seen a few episodes of that show, The Ranch, which is with Ashton Kutcher. I watched a few episodes because one of my favorite people, Dax Shepard, was on that show for like a 5-episode arc or something like that. And I like Ashton Kutcher a lot. So I watched the 5 episodes of that show and was like, I knew it was going to be like very, you know, Republican-y and making fun of like the liberals and stuff like that. And, but I thought it was funny. I thought it was well done. I think it's cool that there's the laugh track's a little annoying, but I thought it was cool that there's still this multicam show being made. And I think I know we live in divisive times, but I think it's cool that there are TV shows being made for middle America. Look, I grew up in Indiana. I don't agree with 98% of what Republicans believe in. Certainly not the Republican Party of today, but let's rewind 15 years and talk about the Republican Party of, a long time ago. Growing up in that, I understand those feelings that they have. I don't agree with them, but I understand them. So to see a show get made where, their sense of humor, their sense of pride is shown in a TV show is very cool. And when I say the 2% I agree with, that sort of, patriotism and freedoms of the everyman and, being blue collar, I believe in that. And I think I've carried that blue collar mentality into my show business life of no, you get your ass to work. Do you feel that you've put in a good day's work? If not, you can't go to sleep. You don't get to just sit there and hang out all the time. So I believe in that. I liked that. Anyway, Sam Elliott's great in that show is my point. And I was late to the game liking Sam Elliott, and then I see him in A Star is Born and thought he was great. So I'm glad he got nominated. I'm glad he's kind of coming into this golden era. Is that right? I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say. Timothée Chalamet. He's this kid that everyone loves. I haven't quite figured it out yet. I was reading about him today, about how he's, half French, half American, and, he's been acting since he was a little kid, and his entire family is show business, and, I'm kind of learning about him and watching. The Hollywood Reporter does every year. They put out on YouTube an actors roundtable talk, and he's on the one this year with Mahershala Ali and a few other people. I can't remember who else was on there, but it's I just started it also. But I think he's good. Is my point. I just and I thought he was good in the movie too. As somebody who grew up around. Oh, Chadwick Boseman's in that Actors Roundtable. But going into Beautiful Boy, I thought Steve Carell was good. I thought the rest of the cast was good. I thought it was weird that they cast the woman who played Holly in The Office to be his ex-wife. So Timothée Chalamet was great. Being around addiction when I was a kid, I thought he nailed it. And I'm glad he got nominated. Do I think it's the standout performance of the year? No. I'm going to have a tough time picking between Mahershala and Green Book and Adam Driver and BlacKkKlansman. I'm kind of leaning toward Mahershala. I'm such a big fan of him, and I cannot wait to watch the new season of True Detective. So I'm going to say it's either going to be between Adam or Mahershala. And sometimes I do this. See, this is where politics comes in, because I'm like, Adam Driver's done pretty well for himself. He's at the top. Does he need me to vote for him, or should I vote for Mahershala, who I feel is underrated still at this point, and my vote, I would want it to help somebody reach the upper echelon as high as they can go in the stratosphere to be great. So sometimes I vote that way, I'll be honest. Moving on. Outstanding performance by a female actor in a supporting role. You got Amy Adams in Vice. She was fine. Emily Blunt in A Quiet Place. I loved A Quiet Place. That's one of my favorite movies of the year. Man, that movie... John Krasinski is insane. He directed a couple smaller indies. The one where the Hollers. He did the Hollers about a family when the mom's dying and things like that. And then he did the David Foster Wallace book, Interviews with Hideous Men, I believe it's called. So he did these 2 indies, and then he comes out and does this crazy, what feels like huge studio movie that was scary and so perfectly made. It's amazing, and I know he directed a few episodes of The Office, but and he's got other experience, right, on these bigger shows like Jack Ryan and 13 Hours, where he's been around the big movie set who are doing these big epic, images. But generally, I still kind of think of him like, that's Jim. Like, how is Jim making A Quiet Place? It's amazing and just shows how talented he is. And I thought Emily Blunt was great in that. Then you got Margot Robbie and Mary Queen of Scots, Emma Stone in The Favorite, and Rachel Weisz in The Favorite. I would hate to be nominated against my co-star. That's an awkward spot. I think I'm going to vote for Emily Blunt in A Quiet Place because I thought she was brilliant. Outstanding performance by a cast in a motion picture. You got Star is Born, Black Panther, BlacKkKlansman, Bohemian Rhapsody, Crazy Rich Asians. You gotta kind of go with, I think you gotta go with Black Panther, Angela Bassett, Chadwick Boseman, Sterling K. Brown, Martin Freeman, Michael B. Jordan, Daniel Kaluuya, Lupita Nyong'o, Andy Serkis, Forrest Whitaker. Are you kidding me? Black Panther's got my vote on that one. Sorry, I don't even need to go back. Stunt ensemble in a motion picture. You got Ant-Man and the Wasp, Avengers, Ballad of Buster Scruggs, Black Panther, Mission Impossible Fallout. Obviously, I'm going to give that to Mission Impossible because as far as stunts go, they always tear it up, including Tom Cruise. I think he broke his ankle in that movie, right? And then, we could keep going, but you've got like all the TV. Is it mean that I don't want to do the TV? I don't want to spend like 4 hours. I've already been talking for 41 minutes. With TV, I'll just tell you what I've been watching because that's probably what's going to lean towards my voting. I really like This Is Us. I like Ozark a lot. Marvelous Mrs. Maisel was great. I'm going to vote for Tony Shalhoub for sure in that, even though he's up against like Bill Hader and Henry Winkler from Barry, Michael Douglas and The Kaminsky Method, and Alan Arkin. Like, those are great, but Tony Shalhoub was such a standout in Mrs. Maisel. We were watching that. I really liked that a lot. I loved Glow. I like watching that. What else are we watching? Hang on one second. I'll be able to tell you. I feel like TV, there's so much TV to watch. I don't know how anybody's keeping up with everything. And I feel like I don't meet anyone who has the same TV shows that they're watching as me, which is totally cool. So SNL I'm watching. I started watching You on Netflix. That's creepy. Atlanta. I just finished season 2. Don't hate, but I love that shit. That was so good. Crashing is great with Pete Holmes, and he's also got his new special out called Dirty Clean on HBO. And then Mr. Robot. That's pretty much all I'm watching at this point in time because, I also watch movies. And, I also like to make things and work. So there's a lot to digest. And I try to keep up as much as possible. One, because I feel a responsibility as a SAG member who votes to, actually watch everything before I vote so that I'm not just, like I said, politically picking my favorites. I want to really believe that the person I picked deserves it. Not that it's just me voting. There's thousands of other votes, but I take it seriously is my point. I take pride in it, just as I do politically. I like to vote. I like if you want my voice to be heard, I'm going to take it seriously, and I'll give you my vote. So anyway, those are my favorites. I don't know how the Oscars are going to go. I kind of felt like the Golden Globes, I didn't disagree with any of the Golden Globe winners. Let me bring that up real quick. Bringing it up on the lappy top. Best Motion Picture Drama, Bohemian Rhapsody won. I loved Bohemian Rhapsody. I've seen it twice. It's so enjoyable. I'll probably watch it like 5 other times because it's a lot of fun. I've always loved Queen. I grew up listening to everything Queen and think Freddie Mercury was the greatest vocalist of all time. But I think it should have either gone to BlacKkKlansman or A Star is Born. I will say this. I am so glad that Black Panther... I'm surprised and excited that Black Panther got a Best Picture nomination because I actually do feel it deserved it. It's wild that we're in a time where superhero movies are looked at as the best movies being made. That's weird. And I'll be honest, some of the superhero movies that get made, I look at and I'm like, this looks like it was made on some ridiculous soundstage and it looks like trash. Like, I'll be the first one to say it. And I'm so sick of all the CGI. I'm not a big fan of that. I'm a practical effects guy, and I like watching humans. That's what I like. But Black Panther was stunning. Great filmmaking. Best Picture, Musical or Comedy, Green Book won. It was up against Vice, Mary Poppins, The Favorite, and Crazy Rich Asians. I'm surprised Crazy Rich Asians didn't win, to be honest with you. Best performance by an actress in motion picture. Glenn Close won, beating out Lady Gaga, Nicole Kidman, Melissa McCarthy, and Rosamund Pike. Okay. I would have picked Lady Gaga. Best performance by an actor in a motion picture. Rami Malek beat out John David Washington, Lucas Hedges, Willem Dafoe, and Bradley Cooper. Okay. But I'll say this. Yes, he acted pretty well, but he still lip-synced all those vocals. Not that I think anyone could have touched those vocals, because again, how do you even step up to the plate to try to do what Freddie Mercury did in real life, right? But, I like Rami Malek a lot. I didn't start watching Mr. Robot until I saw Bohemian Rhapsody. I think he's great. Best performance by an actress in a motion picture, musical, or comedy. Olivia Colman won the Golden Globe, beating out Emily Blunt, Elsie Fisher, Charlize Theron, and Constance Wu. Kind of surprised Constance Wu didn't win. Best performance by an actor in a motion picture, musical, or comedy. You had Christian Bale going against Lin-Manuel Miranda, Viggo Mortensen, Robert Redford, and John C. Reilly. He won. That's cool. Again, I thought his performance was great. And I always like it when there's that many huge names. Like you're going against John C. Reilly, Lin-Manuel, Viggo Mortensen, and Robert Redford. Get out of here. That's tough competition. Best performance by an actress in a supporting role in any motion picture. I have loved Regina King since forever. And she won for If Beale Street Could Talk. So happy. She beat out Claire Foy, who was in First Man, who I thought was good. Emma Stone in The Favorite, Rachel Weisz in The Favorite, and Amy Adams in Vice. I'm so glad that she won it, and I think that's great. Best performance by an actor in a supporting role in any motion picture. Mahershala won for The Green Book, beating out Timothée Chalamet, Adam Driver, Richard Grant, and Sam Rockwell. Again, that's steep competition there, but I'm glad he won. This is the first year where I looked at the Golden Globes and didn't feel like the people won based on politics, and what I mean by that is like, well, they've been snubbed this many times, or they've been nominated 9 times, and they've never won. It's time for them to win, so let's just give them the award. I feel like everyone who won the award deserved it based upon the fact that they turned in these iconic performances that will matter over the course of time. There's some performances that get delivered that are great performances, like could be the greatest of performances, but do they also matter over the course of time? I don't know. Alfonso Cuarón won for Roma as Best Director. I still haven't seen Roma. I think I might watch that today. But beat out Spike, beat out Adam McKay, Peter Farrelly, and Bradley Cooper. My question is, did he win it because the movie is that great, or is it because he's the only director that got nominated that did sort of an art movie? Do you know what I mean by that? I know that's kind of a shitty thing to say, but that's where my mind goes. So he won Best Director. I'll check it out. And then the guys who wrote Green Book won for Best Screenplay. Best Motion Picture Animated was Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. It's hilarious that won, beating out Isle of Dogs, which I heard great things about. Mirai, Ralph Breaks the Internet, and Incredibles 2. So it's an interesting year. It's a year filled with pop music and, politics concerning race and superheroes. That's basically the majority of what we're looking at here are those 3 topics. I kind of don't like that there's only 3 topics really being talked about as the topics for all these films. But at the same time, it's a nice balance of, with the pop music, we get to, disappear from the politics and the heaviness of the times we're living in now. The superhero movies also do that and remind us that good shall defeat evil. And then the politics reminds us, hey, this is what's going on. Stay woke. So, I'm curious to see what happens at the Oscars, because generally it's the Golden Globes that kind of get looked at as the more political winners, and the truth sort of usually comes out in the Oscars, and I hope it's that way again this year. I haven't really looked at the Oscar nominations to see who the snubs are. Let's look. Snubs. Who got snubbed? Bradley Cooper got snubbed, and Black Panther got snubbed. Okay. I love that Variety does this. They do 15 biggest snubs and surprises from the Oscar nominations. Number 1, snub, Bradley Cooper for directing A Star is Born. I cannot believe that. That's a bunch of BS. First Man got shut out of the main categories. Look, I thought my favorite movies of 2018 weren't really loved on at all, in my opinion. I thought Ready Player One was a phenomenal movie. I loved that. I loved First Man. That didn't get any love. Halloween didn't get any love, which not surprising. It's a horror movie. I loved Deadpool 2 a lot. That didn't get any love. But for First Man to get basically no love, it got like 4 nominations, and they were for like sound mixing and sound editing, and like a couple other of the categories that really don't get televised. I think it's ridiculous. I thought it was. I mean, that was a movie right there. That movie had my heart in my throat because I was just so freaked out by how they shot the rocket flight, and some great performances were turned into that movie, but direction, I can't believe they didn't at least get a nomination for that. Damien Chazelle did a phenomenal job, but is that political? Did he not get the nomination because, last year, was it last year with La La Land and Moonlight, or was that 2 years ago? That might be 2 years ago. But, he was up there for La La Land. He was up there for, the drummer movie. Damien Chazelle. Whiplash. He was up there for Whiplash. I mean, maybe that's it. Timothée Chalamet didn't get nominated for Beautiful Boy. So now we're going back to what I said earlier. I am actually surprised he didn't get nominated. Do I think he deserved the win? No, but I think he deserved a nom. John David Washington for Black Klansman, no nom. Ethan Hawke for First Reformed. I haven't even heard about that. No nominations for Emily Blunt whatsoever. That's ridiculous. She at least deserved it for A Quiet Place, maybe not for Mary Poppins Returns. Michael B. Jordan got snubbed for Black Panther. I don't know how I feel about that. Toni Collette for Hereditary got snubbed. Nicole Kidman just got snubbed across the board. Won't You Be My Neighbor won't win Best Documentary. 8th Grade misses out for Screenplay. Burning for Best Foreign Film. And both Roma actresses are nominated. That was a surprise, I guess. Willem Dafoe for At Eternity's Gate was a surprise. And there's a couple other things. Okay. Reading through that, I'm like, okay, I see. The Timothée Chalamet is the only really big one that's kind of like, oh, really? And the Bradley Cooper one. Those are the two that I'm like, oh, wow, those two people definitely deserved a nomination. But there's only so many spots. What are we going to do? Here's the 16 nominees for Best Director. No. But the question is, did somebody, get a director nomination for directing a piece of shit? But I still love the awards. I grew up watching the awards every year. I can't wait till awards season. Since I was a little kid, I loved watching them. I loved show business when I was a kid so much. So I loved watching them because you got to see all the celebrities gather around in their tuxedos and see what they're like as real people, you know what I mean? And hear their speeches and sort of get inspired to keep acting and keep creating and keep growing and pushing and dreaming and all these things that we do as actors. Then the last couple of years I sort of felt like, there's a lot of politics going on. It's they've been rough. And then the mistakes like with La La Land and Moonlight, and then, movies generally, because the studio system is in such a big flux, movies haven't been as great as they used to be. I feel like, you look back on 1995 or something, Best Picture winner 1995. Forrest Gump won that year. Let me see this. Let me bring this up real quick. So that won, and it was up against Pulp Fiction, Quiz Show, Shawshank Redemption, 4 Weddings and a Funeral. The best directors were Robert Zemeckis, Woody Allen, Quentin Tarantino, Robert Redford, and Krzysztof Kieślowski. In your Best Actor category, you had Tom Hanks going against Morgan Freeman, Paul Newman, John Travolta. Best Supporting Actor, you had Martin Landau, Samuel L. Jackson, Chaz Palminteri, Paul Schofield, Gary Sinise. Best Actress, you had Diane Weist, I don't know. Rosemary Harris, Helen Mirren, Uma Thurman, Jennifer Tilly. Best Actress, Jessica Lange, Jodie Foster, Winona Ryder, Susan Sarandon, Miranda Richardson. I mean, it was just like names, like crazy. And people that were turning in their best work at the time that we still look back, when you think of Tom Hanks, you still think of Forrest Gump. That's what I mean. When you think of Morgan Freeman, you still think of him in Shawshank Redemption with that old baseball mitt on. When you think of Samuel L. Jackson, you still think of him with a jerry curl in Pulp Fiction. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's what I mean, is like, that work was iconic and meant something, and we knew it was important in the time. It didn't take 20 years for us to be like, Forrest Gump was actually kind of an important movie. We knew it at the time. That's not happening now. It's just like, oh, these movies are good, I guess. I watched them. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's sort of where we're at. So it is the golden age of TV, and maybe I should have gone over those TV nominations, but I didn't. But, yeah, we'll see. Do you have any feedback? What do you guys think on who should win, who shouldn't win, who got snubbed? Do you think the award shows are political? Let me know. I want to hear from you. And we're 56 minutes in, and I've been rambling nonstop. My voice is going, and I'm going to get out of here. This was supposed to be a mini-sode. Now it's just a sode. Anyway, thanks for listening. This is Hollywood Happy Hour. And you guys are awesome. The show is, I don't know. I keep saying that. I don't know what the show is becoming. People keep asking me about it, telling me that they're listening to it and that they're enjoying it. That's great. I hope that I'm going to keep it entertaining. Maybe it's good that I don't quite have an exact format that I'm doing, that I'm kind of mixing it up all the time. Maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. Anyway, didn't have a guest today. Thanks for sticking in, hanging there, and listening to me the whole time, even if you didn't. But yeah, enjoy awards season. Hit me up on Shot of Bailey's all over the interwebs. I'm all over the place. YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat. I started doing that TikTok thing. I'm going to start uploading videos on that. Start creating little mini sketches again. It's like Vine is back, guys. It's very exciting. If you don't know about that, check that out. I'll see you guys out there. I'm still grinding. Now I'm off to go work on Our Town, the play. Hope you guys have a good week. I will hit you back with another episode very soon, and hope to hear from you. Write me messages, and also follow us on, you can find Hollywood Happy Hour Podcast on your podcast app. You can find it on SoundCloud, Mixcloud, YouTube. I kind of put it in as many places as I can. Now, I'm going to ask you a favor before I leave. A lot of people don't really know about podcasts. Show them. Be like, hey, do you have an iPhone? Great, open it. Show them that purple icon that says podcasts. Tell them if they open that, all they have to do is type in Hollywood Happy Hour Podcast and subscribe, and they can start listening to the podcast anytime they want. Go subscribe to us, leave us a review, and more than anything, if you guys could just share the podcast with others, that would help out a lot. That's what we want to do right now, is we want to build the audience and get more people listening. And even if they're not listening to my podcast and listening to other podcasts, great. Because it's still a new, even though it seems like everybody under the sun has a podcast, it's still a new format, it's still a new form of entertainment, it's still a new medium, and it's still growing and building and becoming what it's going to be. So share the podcast, share some love, and I got to be honest with you, your support is what matters. It's not the support of casting directors or producers. It's the people that I'm literally talking to via this mic or via, YouTube or social media that matters to me. So hit me up. Let me know what you think. And if you guys have any requests for people that you want to hear me interview on the podcast, that could be fun for us to start doing. I think I'm almost ready to start really digging in there. 15 episodes or whatever we're on. I think I'm kind of getting the hang of what I'm doing here. So yeah, let me know who you want to hear on the podcast, and let me know if you have anything you want to hear me tell you about as far as like acting or show business or stories from my life, whatever. I'm down to tell. That's what I do here. I'm here to entertain. And we just reached an hour, so I'm going to get out of here. Thank you guys for listening. I'll catch you on the next episode of the Hollywood Happy Hour podcast. Later.